Isis and Osiris and Moses, the baby Moses going down the Nile River. Isis popped in my mind while I was sitting here this morning. I come up here to check the YouTube comments, and I thought Isis and Osiris. So I typed in Isis, and this documentary from It's Fate and Fabled from PBS, Public Broadcasting System, it popped up. And I was watching it, fast, and I saw a lot of similarities between Isis, the Nile River, a baby, the weighing of the hearts by the god. And I thought, now wait a minute. The Nile, that's the baby Moses, was hidden and floated down in the Nile. And the weighing of the hearts, Jesus said, I judge no one except my Father in heaven, and he judges the heart. It's all about the heart. I think this is woven into the Bible. I really do. And I want to play the documentary. I do. It's only 9 minutes. It has a lot of information in it. And I want to go over to the pbs.org, and I want to go to the Fate and Fabled area. And I want you to listen very carefully, because I'm going to listen very carefully. I skimmed through it really fast, listened really fast, and just like scanned it, gathered the data on it. It's interesting. It's really, really interesting. I'm come over here. Let me do this. Okay. I know that this is not supposed to be talked about. It's not. You're not supposed to talk about any of this. You're not. You're not to draw conclusions between that and the baby Moses. You're not. You're not to draw comparisons. You're not to see things that look kind of the same, kind of feel the same. You're not to think for yourself. You're not. That's too bad. It's too bad. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to play it. I am going to play it. That's right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to come over to this pbs.org. Fate and Fabled is what it is. It's titled, How Isis Brought Her True Love Back from the Dead. I've got to make sure I've got the audio output turned on. I do. To make sure that it can be heard. So you can see it too. Monitor and output. That would be the audio. So that you can hear it. What's being said. Because I think it's really relevant. It's important. And if you're stuck in a certain mindset, you're not going to want to listen to this. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're going to totally reject it. But if you could just for one moment think outside the box. Start looking and saying, why does that story sound like this story? Why are there similarities between it? Ask yourself that. Really. I better make sure I'm not echoing. I'm trying to hear if I'm echoing. Okay, I'm not. I'm not echoing you all. Let me go over here. I'm going to do this just like this. Oopsie. And I'm going to push the play button. I hope you can hear it. Starts off with her talking. Let me see.
For the ancient Egyptians, the cycle of life itself began and ended with Isis and Osiris. Their story is one of the oldest known myths, and it informs spiritual beliefs, power structures, and gender roles in ancient Egypt and beyond. And who wouldn't be drawn to a tale that has it all? And by all, I mean devious party tricks, sibling rivalry, shape-shifting quests, true love, and a missing penis. In 1922, the unsealing of King Tutankhamun's tomb opened a portal to ancient Egypt. In the burial chamber, carvings on the wall showed the young pharaoh traveling to the afterlife. Here he is welcomed by Isis, mother of pharaohs and goddess of protection, and Osiris, king of the underworld. Two of Egypt's most powerful gods, Isis and Osiris, appear throughout funerary texts and art. King Tut's iconic death mask bears Osiris's likeness, while symbols of Isis are etched across his coffin. The influence of these two deities extends far beyond mummies and tombs. Long before Isis and Osiris, there was the creator god Atum. Some accounts identify him as the creator of Shu, god of dry air, and Tefnut, goddess of moisture, who were the parents of Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. Other versions say that Atum fashioned Geb and Nut himself, separating earth from sky when he discovered their illicit affair. Either way, it's a formidable family tree. Geb and Nut had 4 children, Isis, Osiris, Set, and Nephthys. These deities paired off in the womb, with Isis and Osiris falling for each other, and Set and Nephthys forming their own bond. As firstborn, Osiris became ruler of the earth. He was essentially the creator of society, who brought law, farming, religion, and education to the people. Not to be outdone, Isis brought medicine, healing, and beer brewing. If Osiris stood for order, Set stood for chaos. Even with the restrained Nephthys by his side, he couldn't contain his desire to destroy his brother. Set was known for causing storms, war, and general malaise, but his most vicious plan began with a party. At this gathering, Set produced an ornate chest and proposed a game. Whoever could fit inside the chest could keep it. All the gods tried to squeeze in, but none succeeded, for Set had designed the chest for Osiris's body alone. As his brother settled in, Set slammed the chest shut, sealed it, and flung it in the Nile. As Set seized power over Egypt, the chest floated down the Nile and washed up at the kingdom of Byblos. Here it merged with the trunk of a cedar tree, which the king promptly cut down and used to prop up his palace, not knowing that Osiris's body was inside. The image of this pillar containing the imprisoned god became the Djed, a symbol of stability in Egyptian architecture. Back with the gods, things were anything but stable. Furious, Isis vowed to find her husband and put an end to Set's rule. She and Nephthys took flight as falcons, questioning everyone they could find for news of Osiris. Eventually, a group of children pointed them in the right direction. Landing on the shores of Byblos, Isis transformed into a human and set about charming the palace maids, eventually gaining the favor of the queen. Now an undercover nanny, Isis took to bathing the infant prince in fire in order to instill some godly strength. But when the king discovered her actions, he was so terrified that he promised to give her anything in exchange for safety. Of course, Isis demanded the chest. She brought Osiris's body back to the banks of the Nile, hiding it in the reeds until she could figure out how to revive him. But Set found the body, hacking it into 14 pieces and scattering them across Egypt. Once again, Isis set out in search of Osiris. She soon tracked down 13 parts of the body, which she lovingly stitched back together. But they had a little problem. Osiris's penis had been eaten by a fish. Isis had come too far to be thwarted by this. Some say that she fashioned a new member for Osiris, with others adding that she drew out his last sexual powers with her beating wings. Either way, the two used Osiris's final moments on Earth to conceive an heir. By the power of Isis, Osiris was briefly revived, given a proper burial, and sent safely to the realm of the dead. Here he was resurrected as the king of the afterlife, or Duat, where he would rule for eternity. In the wake of Osiris's departure, Isis raised their son Horus in hiding. Under her guidance, he grew into a strapping young god who defeated Set to assume his rightful rule over Egypt. The epic battle between Horus and Set was sometimes used as a metaphor for the war between Upper and Lower Egypt, with Horus's triumph standing for the unification of the region. The story served as a guide to death for all ancient Egyptians. Isis's retrieval of the chest from Byblos informed the belief that Egyptians should only be laid to rest on Egyptian soil, and the second part of her quest highlights the importance of protecting the body after death. Isis painstakingly searched for and reassembled Osiris's body, thus constructing what can be considered the first mummy. Her recreation of the penis corresponds to the belief that the body should be buried intact. During mummification, embalmers would construct absent body parts for the dead. This ensured that they would travel to the underworld in the best possible shape. For King Tut, this meant being buried with his penis propped at a 90-degree angle, a feature which scholars have linked to Osiris's post-mortem fertility. Embalmers often placed the dead in decorated coffins, which eventually became anthropoid or human-shaped to resemble Osiris's chest. Many bore the face of the god and were decorated with the wings of Isis and Nephthys. The pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom frame Osiris as judge and king of the afterlife. These writings were a set of utterances and hymns intended for royalty to ensure safe passage to the afterlife. To reach paradise or the field of reeds, you had to meet with Osiris in the Hall of Truth. Here he weighed your heart against the feather of truth, which you'd hopefully kept nice and light by steering clear of bad thoughts and actions. If your heart wasn't weighed down, Osiris let you pass. This encounter between God and mortals was extended in the coffin texts of the Middle Kingdom, which emphasized Osiris as the judge of all people regardless of class. In the New Kingdom, which occurred between the 16th and 11th century BCE, the Book of the Dead became the most popular guide to the afterlife. A collection of funerary spells and guidelines written over hundreds of years, the book guided the dead through face-offs with demons, confessions to gods, the weighing of the heart, and other judgments of the spirit. Isis and Osiris appear throughout these texts, judging or guiding the dead through their spiritual reckonings. While Osiris reveals the challenges and promises of the afterlife, Isis stands for life itself. From food and water to the nourishing powers of medicine and maternal instincts, Isis presided over living things. She was widely worshipped as the protectress and mother of all pharaohs, and is referred to as the Great One in the pyramid texts. Her behavior following the death of Osiris epitomizes the ingenuity and perseverance that she was beloved for. This triumph indicates her possession of mighty magic, which allows her to shapeshift, revive the dead, and protect the vulnerable. The awe-inspiring powers of Isis can be linked to the elevated role of women in ancient Egypt. Women had autonomy over marriage, property, and finances, and could be pharaohs in their own right. Non-royal women also served as scribes, doctors, and religious officials, carrying out different forms of protection that Isis also embodied. Over time, Isis became the supreme Egyptian god. Her temples were erected across North Africa, as well as Crete, Pompeii, and Northern Europe. The Roman cult of Isis is still shrouded in mystery, but we do know that her followers launched a model ship filled with offerings to the goddess every year. In the classical world, she was more generally associated with the goddess of food and fertility, Demeter, and her cult in Rome came to rival that of Christianity. It's also been noted that Christian iconography of the Madonna and Child borrows from the image of Isis protecting the infant Horus. From mummification to mothering, she informed a host of practices and ideals. From temple paintings to burial practices to secret rituals, Osiris and Isis infused ancient iconography and beliefs. Our knowledge of their story myth comes from a similarly diverse range of sources. Found on the walls of ancient pyramids and aptly named the Pyramid Texts, the oldest religious writings in the world reference the grisly murder of Osiris. Later texts like the Chester Beatty Papyrus and the Shabaka Stone also allude to this event and its fallout, while classical historians like Plutarch and Diodorus Siculus wrote their own versions of the myth. While the premature death of Osiris and his separation from Isis could be seen as a tragic tale, the story reveals the ancient Egyptian belief that the boundaries between material
I didn't let that fail. Wait a minute. I need to let it play out. Let me do that.
and spiritual, life and death are porous. For the ancient Egyptians, Osiris offered a poignant reminder that life was fragile, even for a god. As the great protector, Isis offered guidance on that fragile path and ensured that the channels between the living and the lost were always open.
If you're just tuning in, I clicked on that popped up this morning, so I clicked on it and listened to it really fast. Is what I had done, and it had a lot of striking similarities to the Bible, the stories in the Bible, the accounts that are told in the Bible. This is the Nile River. Moses. All of it. All of it. There's a lot of mystery in the mythology. A lot of mystery everywhere. A lot of things that have been hidden. It has. It's why are there etchings in stone? Really, why? Why in some areas they got great big sections of people's faces chopped off, hidden? Why are certain names erased from history in like ancient Egypt and things like that? Why? It should make you think, why does it sound like the Bible also? And other things. There's so much going on. So much has been hidden. It has. And is the story of Moses and the bulrushes, is it truly depicting what you saw in this documentary from PBS, Fate and Fabled? Is it? Did they get that from that? Did the Moses story in the Nile, did it happen before the Isis happened? Did it? It's a touchy subject for some. It is, because if you've been through your life, you've grown up in church, you've read your Bible and things like that, you don't hear anything about Egypt or ancient texts and things like that. It's like totally blotted out. And the mother and child, the mother Mary and the baby Jesus. Is it depicting Osiris or Isis holding the baby? Is it? What if this is true? Really, what if this is true and the accounts in the Bible are talking about this, but are putting it in more of a human-like context that people can relate to nowadays? I don't have anything against the Bible. I like reading it. I love the Proverbs. I like reading the accounts in the Bible. I do. I'm not speaking out against it. I'm just saying, why are there similarities? There's accounts of biblical floods all over the world. There's different narratives of a great flood. I think I'm done. I am done. So I hope you are able to think outside the box, have an open mind. You can listen to something, and what don't resonate, just let it go. Some people aren't going to want to hear this. I know you're not going to want to hear it. You're not. That's fine. I felt led to share it. I haven't even drank the rest of my cup of love. It's kind of, I got to go heat it up down there, you all. So I'm going to go and, oh. It's about right. You can't hear me. Can you hear me? No. Cut me off. Cut me off. They cut me off. They cut me off. Can you hear me now? I'm going to wait to see if you can hear me now. They cut me off. Let me say this. They cut me off. You hear me? Did you hear anything I had to say? Anything? I'm not loud enough? Can you hear me now? What was so low, Tracy? What I had to say was so low? The whole town. Okay, I'm waiting. You tell me if it's so low now. You can't hear me? You can't hear me? You can hear me fine. Is my volume low on your end? I'm going to see if... You can hear me fine. Is my volume low on your end? You heard all of it. What I said, and I'm going to repeat myself, obviously. Yeah, it's better. This story, the account of Isis, Egypt, the similarities between Isis and the Nile River. I was skimming, I watched it really fast this morning and scanned it. And I thought, why is she finding something in the Nile River? Because it sounds like the baby Moses in the Nile River. And then the underworld, the weighing of the heart, that's a similarity. Jesus says, I judge no one except my Father in heaven. He judges the heart. It is all about the heart. It truly is. But the biblical accounts, did the biblical account of Moses in the Nile, found by, let me make it bigger, found by, right here, did that happen before the Isis account? Did it? She raised him. She raised him. And the, I'll repeat myself, I will. And the picture of Mary and the baby Jesus, did that happen before the Isis depiction holding the baby? Did it? Did the Bible draw off of ancient Egypt? Because there's a lot of mystery in the mythology. I don't have nothing against the Bible. I like reading the Bible. I like the Proverbs. I like hearing the accounts of the people in the Bible. I do. They're comforting. But did they have to keep an open mind? If this doesn't resonate with you, tune it out. Turn it over. Don't listen to me anymore. There's more to the story. Did they write the Bible and kind of put the history, the ancient history in it, write it in a way that normal, everyday people would relate to it better without thinking of this as gods and angels and demons and all of that kind of stuff? Do they do it so you can relate on a human form without really knowing what was going on? Did they? Because there's really a lot of similarities. You can't dismiss it. You can't. Why did they erase from certain Egyptian history one certain woman's history of her was blotted out of everything? I remember watching a documentary. It's like the stone and stuff. They literally erased every mention of her. Who was it? Who was it? Why did they have to hide the history? Really? History, legend, history, myth, Cleopatra, Macedonian. It makes me think. It really does. Think. Yeah. Do I feel a little surprised in my being? No. Asked you, show me this right here years ago, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm not going to want to hear it. I'm not, because it goes against what I've been taught 4 or 5 years ago. I would not listen to someone like me trying to say that Moses and ancient Egypt and Osiris and Isis and all these Egyptian gods are tied. I would definitely, I'm going to tell you what I did, because that was my mindset. I don't want to hear it. You're making me feel really uncomfortable on the inside. That is blasphemy, what you're telling me, because I know what it says in the Bible. The Bible is the unadulterated Word of God. And what you're talking, you're adding to the Bible, because it says anyone who adds to this book or takes away, the same will be added or taken away from them from the book. You know what I mean? No. 5 years ago, you talk like this, because I'm not even going to listen to you. That's my mindset, because of what I was raised believing and knowing. Today, I'm seeing something. I am. Am I going to tune it out? I'm not going to tune it out. I'm not. No, there's too much stuff that's been hidden. There's too much strange things going on in the world. There really is too much energy floating around out here. There is a whole lot of energy. What is going on with your... I can't even see what I've got on... Oh, my iPhone was just twirling and twirling and twirling and twirling you off. You just tuning in. Yeah. Rastafari, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. My journey is still ongoing, just like a lot of other people. That's right. This live chat is being throttled. It's fine. I'm at 28 minutes, you all. So it's from PBS, Fate and Fabled. I never even knew they had anything like this, but I typed in the word ISIS, and that video popped up. Because I had just come up here, got through looking at my comments, and then ISIS popped in my mind. And that popped up, just like that. It did. So, Tataria and the mud flood. Yeah, all of it. Look to the skies. Yeah. It's okay. So if you're at this point of the video, there was a point after the documentary that I played from PBS. It's only like 9 minutes. I was speaking and my voice was really low, or some could not even hear me, and I think that was deliberate. I really do. The picture of Mother Mary and the baby. Well, according to Egyptian, ISIS and the baby. ISIS and finding the body in the Nile River, floating down the Nile River. Moses in the Nile River. The weighing of the hearts. Your heart has to be light, like a feather. Light like a feather. That's what it said. Your heart gets weighed. You got to keep out all negative thoughts out of your mind. You do. You can't. No, don't be. You know you can't be thinking negative. You got to keep all the worries and stuff out. You got to have balance on the inside of your heart. You do. If you're going to make it in this world, it's got to be balanced. You can't have the cares of this world. Literally, it's like weighing you down. How am I going to get that angle? Because no, you can't. You can't. Don't. You got to travel light in this spiritual realm. Travel light without the cares of this world and the negative things. Even on physical foot, if you got a distance to go, a ways to go, you're going to travel light. Light. Can't be weighed down physically and or spiritually within your heart. So I'm going to go. That's all I have to say. And thank you for tuning in. And gracious Heavenly Father, the creator of all, may you help us to walk in the way that you want us to, and may your will be done in our lives, not our will. May you give us the wisdom that we seek and the knowledge. We know it comes from you. And for all those who have a heavy heart, may you lighten their heart. May you speak to their hearts. May you pour your love within their hearts. Extend to them your mercy and your grace. And may you lighten their hearts. And may you bless them and their family. And no matter what they do, just may you always reassure them that you're always there, your ever-present need in the time of help. In the name of precious Jesus, amen. We can do it. We did do it. We did it. Have a, that's right, you all have a wonderful rest of your morning. Love